50 years had passed since the exile. Admiral Yi Jun stood on the bridge of his command ship. Through the big windows he could see New Terra Prime spinning slowly below. The planet looked nothing like Earth, but it was home now. Cities of glass and metal covered the surface. Ships moved between floating space stations like busy insects. Yi Jun was older now. His hair was gray, and his face had lines from years of hard decisions. But his eyes were still sharp. He had been a young captain when the humans left Council space. Now he led them all. "Status report," he said to his officers. "All colonies are running well," said Commander Jaewon. "Food production is up 15%. The new fusion plants are working perfectly. Trade between our systems is growing every month." Yi Jun nodded. The early years had been terrible. Many humans had died trying to build homes in the empty space beyond the rim. They had no help from the Council races. They had to learn everything themselves. How to find water on dead planets. How to grow food in artificial soil. How to build cities that could protect people from radiation and cold, but humans learned fast. They always had. "What about the research projects?" Yi Jun asked. "Dr. Yunji wants to see you," said Jaewon. "She says she has something important to show you, Doctor." Yunji had been so young student 50 years ago. Now she was the best scientist humanity had. She worked on the Prometheus Research Station, a huge facility that floated in space near the edge of their territory. Yi Jun took a shuttle to the research station. The station was enormous. It had laboratories, factories, and living spaces for 10,000 scientists and engineers. They worked on projects that the Council races had never imagined. Yunji met him at the docking bay. She was excited about something. Her eyes were bright, and she walked quickly. "Admiral, you have to see this," she said. "We have made a breakthrough. Several breakthroughs, actually." She led him through long corridors filled with strange machines. Scientists and engineers worked at computer screens and control panels. The air hummed with energy. "First, the construction swarms," Yunji said. She showed him a window where thousands of tiny robots moved through space. They were building a new space station. The robots worked together like ants. Each one was small, but together they could build anything. "They copy themselves," Yunji explained. "One robot can make 2 robots, 2 can make 4, 4 can make 8. We can build entire cities in weeks instead of years." Yi Jun watched the robots work. This was something new, something the Council races did not have. "What else?" he asked. Yunji led him to another laboratory. Here, a strange machine sat in the center of the room. It looked like a metal ring with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Quantum fold engines," she said. "They let us travel through folded space. We can go much farther and much faster than anyone thought possible. The Council races think space travel takes months or years. With this, we can cross the galaxy in weeks." Yi Jun stared at the machine. "Does it work?" "We tested it yesterday. A small ship traveled to the far edge of our territory and back. And the trip should have taken 6 months. It took 3 days. This changed everything. With this technology, the scattered human colonies could work together like one big civilization. They could explore places no one had ever seen." "There is more," Yunji said. "But this part is even more important." She led him to a communication center. Here, officers listened to messages from across human space. But today, they were listening to something else. 3 weeks ago, Captain Nari found something during a deep space mission, Yunji said. "Show him the recording." An officer played a message. Nari's voice came through the speakers. She sounded amazed and excited. "Admiral, we have found other exiles, not just one group, dozens of them. Races that were thrown out of Council space just like us. They have been living in the dark regions for hundreds of years, some for thousands." Yi Jun felt his breath catch. They were not alone. The recording continued. "The Keth are warrior poets. They were exiled because they refused to follow Council orders that went against their honor. The Zephyr are engineers and builders. They were thrown out because their technology was too advanced. The Titans are a hive mind species. The Council feared they would influence other races." Nari's voice grew more excited. "Admiral, they all have the same story. They grew too fast, they changed too much. They were different, so the council got rid of them. But they survived, and they are willing to work with us. The recording ended. Yi Jun sat down heavily in a chair. His mind was racing. How many exile races are there? He asked. We have found 43 so far, Yunji said. And we think there are more. The council has been doing this for thousands of years. Every time a race becomes strong enough to threaten their power, they find an excuse to exile them. What do these races want? The same thing. We want to go home, to show the council that they made a mistake. Some of them want revenge, others just want to be left alone, but they all agree on one thing. What? The council system is broken. It keeps everyone weak and afraid. It prevents progress. It stops races from growing and learning and becoming better. They want to change that. Yi Jun walked to the window. Outside, he could see human ships moving through space. Some were cargo vessels carrying supplies between colonies. Others were exploration ships heading into the unknown. All of them were free. Free to go where they wanted. Free to build what they needed. Free to become whatever they could become. What does Captain Nari recommend? He asked. She wants permission to set up a meeting. A gathering of all the exile races. She thinks we can form an alliance. Share technology. Share knowledge. Work together. Yi Jun thought about this. An alliance of exile races would be powerful. Much more powerful than humans alone. But it would also be dangerous. It would mean openly challenging the council. Where is Nari now? He asked. On her way back. She should arrive in 2 weeks. She is bringing representatives from several exile races. They want to meet with you. Yi Jun nodded. Set up the meeting. But be careful. If the council learns about this, they will not just exile us again. They will try to destroy us completely. Yes, sir. 2 weeks later, Nari's ship arrived at New Terra Prime. With her came creatures that humans had never seen before. The Keth looked like tall, thin humans covered in golden fur. They spoke in rhymes and carried weapons that looked like works of art. The Zephyr were small and moved very fast. Their hands could build or repair anything. The Titan representative was actually 5 creatures that shared one mind. The meeting was held on Yi Jun's command ship. The representatives sat around a large table. Each race looked different, but they all had the same expression in their eyes. They had all been hurt by the council. They all wanted justice. We are here, Yi Jun said, because we all share the same experience. We were all told we were dangerous. We were all sent away from our homes. We were all expected to die quietly, in the darkness. The Keth representative spoke in a voice like music. But we did not die. We grew stronger. We learned truths the council fears. What truths? Asked Yi Jun. The Zephyr spoke very quickly. That progress comes from diversity. That strength comes from cooperation between different kinds of thinking. That the old ways are not always the best ways. The Titan representative spoke with 5 voices at once. The council keeps the galaxy weak by keeping everyone separate. They fear what we could become if we work together. Yi Jun looked around. The table. So what do we do about it? Nari had been quiet during the meeting. Now she spoke up. We build something new, not to destroy the council but to replace it. We show the galaxy that there is a better way. How? We form a true alliance. We share our technology and knowledge. We help each other grow stronger. And when the time is right, we return to council. Space. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. The Keth representative smiled. An alliance of the abandoned. A confederation of the cast out. I like this idea. The Zephyr was already thinking ahead. We could build incredible things together, ships that travel between dimensions, cities that exist in folded space, weapons that could defend against any threat. Yi Jun felt something he had not felt in 50 years. Hope. Real hope. It will not be easy, he said. The council has armies and weapons we cannot imagine. But they have grown soft, said the Titan. They have not faced a real challenge in thousands of years. They have forgotten how to fight against people who refuse to give up. Nari leaned forward. And we have something they do not have. We have been forced to become strong. We have learned to survive in impossible places. We have learned to work together despite our differences. Yijun stood up. Around the table, the representatives of the exile races watched him. Then we are agreed, he said. We form an alliance. We build our strength together. And someday, we will return home, not as exiles, but as equals. The meeting ended with plans. The exile races would share their technology. They would help each other build better colonies and stronger fleets. They would train together and learn from each other. As the representatives prepared to leave, the Keth spoke one more time. The council thought they were removing weeds from their garden, but they were actually planting seeds in fertile soil. Now those seeds have grown into something they never expected. Yijun nodded. And soon it will be harvest time. Jinho stood in the great hall of the Galactic Council. The room was huge. Its walls reached up so high that he could not see the top. Strange lights floated in the air like stars. Around him sat the 7 elder races that ruled the galaxy. Each one looked different from humans. The Veltar looked like giant crystals that could think and talk. They made soft ringing sounds when they moved. The Nethys were like clouds of gas that changed colors. They spoke without mouths. The other races were just as strange. All of them were old, very old. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Jinho was not alone. Behind him stood Taimin, a soldier who had fought in many battles. His uniform was clean and neat, but his eyes were hard. Next to Taimin was So Young, a scientist who knew more about space and stars than almost any other human. She held a small device that recorded everything. Humans of Earth, said the lead Veltar. Its voice sounded like wind through crystal caves. You stand accused of crimes against the galactic order. Jinho did not move. He had expected this. For months, the council had been angry with humanity. They said humans grew too fast. They said humans took too much. They said humans were dangerous. The Veltar continued to speak. In 200 years, your species has spread to 12 star systems. You have built cities on planets that took us thousands of years to explore. You have made new technology without asking permission. You have changed the balance that has kept peace in our galaxy. A Nethys spoke next. Its voice came from everywhere at once. We have watched species like yours before. They grow fast. They take much. They destroy everything around them. We cannot let this happen again. So, Young stepped forward. May I speak? She asked. The council members made sounds of annoyance. They did not like to be interrupted. Speak quickly, said the Veltar. We have not destroyed anything, So Young said. We have built homes. We have grown food. We have made life better for everyone who wanted to trade with us. We have never attacked any of your worlds. That is not the point, said another council. Member, this one looked like a giant insect made of metal. You grow too fast, you change too much, change brings chaos, chaos brings war. Taimin could not stay quiet anymore. We have only defended ourselves when others attacked us first. We have never started a war. We have tried to be friends with everyone. The council members talked among themselves. They made strange sounds, and lights flashed between them. Jinho could not understand what they were saying, but he knew it was not good. Finally, the lead Veltar spoke again. We have made our decision. The human race is guilty of dangerous expansion. You threaten the order that has kept peace for 10,000 years. Jinho felt his heart sink, but he kept his face calm. He had been a diplomat for 20 years. He knew how to hide his feelings. What is our punishment? He asked. Exile, said the Veltar. Complete exile. You have 72 hours to remove all humans from council space. Every ship, every station, every colony. All of you must go beyond the outer rim. The outer rim was the edge of known space. Beyond it was darkness, empty space between galaxies. No one lived there because nothing could live there. That is a death sentence, Jinho said. You are telling us to go to places where we cannot survive. That is your choice, said the Nethys. You can find a way to survive, or you can die. But you cannot stay here. And if we refuse? Asked Taman. The metal insect made a clicking sound. Then we will use force, terminal force. We will destroy every human ship and colony. We will make sure no human ever threatens the galaxy again. The hall became very quiet. Jinho looked at the faces around him. Some council members looked sad, others looked angry, but most looked afraid. They were afraid of what humans might become. You call this justice, Jinho said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. You are punishing us for being different. You are punishing us for growing and learning and building. You are punishing us for being alive. We are protecting the galaxy, said the Veltar. No, Jinho replied. You are protecting yourselves. You are afraid that we might become stronger than you. You are afraid that we might show others that there are better ways to live. The council members began to speak angrily. Their voices filled the hall. Jinho waited for them to become quiet again. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? Jinho asked. It is not our weapons. It is not our ships. It is not how fast we grow. What makes us dangerous is that we do not give up. When you push us down, we get up. When you tell us we cannot do something, we find a way to do it anyway. When you try to destroy us, we become stronger. He looked directly at the lead Veltar. You think you are saving the galaxy by sending us away. But you are making a mistake, a very big mistake. You are not getting rid of a problem. You are creating one. Your words mean nothing, said the Veltar. You have 72 hours. Use them wisely. Jinho nodded. We will remember this day, he said. We will remember who our friends were, and we will remember who our enemies were. He turned and walked toward the door. Taman and So Young followed him. As they reached the exit, Jinho stopped and looked back. One more thing, he said. When we return, and we will return, things will be different. The galaxy will be different. And you will understand why you should have been our friends instead of our enemies. The great doors closed behind them. Outside the council hall, they walked quickly to their ship. Other humans were waiting for them. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. Exile, Jinho said simply. We have 3 days to get everyone out of council space. The humans around him looked shocked. Some looked angry. Others looked scared. What do we do now? Asked a young officer. Jinho looked out at the stars. We survive, he said. We find a way to live beyond the rim. We build new homes. We become stronger. And someday when the galaxy needs us, we will come back. Taman put his hand on Jinho's shoulder. It will not be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, Jinho replied. Our ancestors came from a small blue planet and reached for the stars. Now we will go even farther. We will go to places no one has ever been. We will do things no one has ever done. And we will show the galaxy what humans can really become. The ship lifted off into space. Around them, other human ships were already moving. The great exodus had begun. Families packed their belongings. Colonies prepared to leave their homes. Military ships formed protective groups around civilian vessels. On the bridge of their ship, Hyunwoo watched the scene through a window. He was young, only 25 years old. He had been born on one of the human colonies. This was the only life he had ever known. Now it was ending. Are we really going to survive out there? He asked. Jinho joined him at the window. I do not know, he said honestly, but I know we are going to try, and humans are very good at trying. The fleet moved slowly toward the edge of council space. Behind them, the lights of the great cities grew smaller. Ahead of them was darkness and empty space. But it was their darkness now, their empty space, and they would fill it with whatever they could build together. The exile had begun, but so had something else, something the council had not expected and could not understand. They had sent away what they thought was a problem. Instead, they had created something much more dangerous. They had created hope. The message came from deep inside council space. It was weak and broken. transmitted through hidden channels that few people knew existed. But the words were clear enough to terrify anyone who heard them. The Kepler system is gone. Not destroyed. Gone. There is nothing left but empty space where the stars used to be. Admiral Yi Jun read the message 3 times. He was in his private office on New Terra Prime. Through his window, he could see the busy space lanes where ships moved between human colonies. Everything looked normal and peaceful, but in Council space something terrible was happening. The message continued. The Veltar High Command is in panic. The Nethys are retreating to their core worlds. No one knows what this enemy is or where it comes from. They call it the Silence because it leaves nothing behind. Not even radio signals. Complete emptiness. Yi Jun called his senior officers to an emergency meeting. Commander Jae-won arrived first, followed by Dr. Yoon-ji and General Won-sik, who led the human military forces. Captain Nari came by video link from her ship at the edge of Exile territory. "How many systems have been lost?" asked Won-sik. "According to our agents, at least 7, Yi Jun replied. "But the reports are confused. Some say more. The Council is trying to keep information secret, but they cannot hide entire star systems disappearing." Dr. Yoon-ji looked worried. "What? Do we know about this silence?" "Very little. It does not attack like a normal enemy. There are no battles, no explosions, no wreckage. Systems just stop existing. One day they are there. The next day, even the stars are gone." Nari's voice came through the communication system. "I have been talking to our allies among the exile races. The Keth remember old stories about something like this. They call it the Void Eater, a force that comes from between galaxies to consume everything." "Stories," said Won-sik. "Not facts. The Keth have very good memories," Nari replied. "Their stories go back thousands of years. They say the Void Eater came before long ago when their ancestors still lived in Council space. It destroyed many worlds before it was driven away. How? Was it driven away?" asked Yi Jun. "They do not remember. The stories say it was a great sacrifice made by many races working together, but the Council races chose to forget rather than remember something so terrible." Dr. Yoon-ji was already thinking like a scientist. "If entire star systems are disappearing, we need to understand how that is possible. Matter cannot just vanish. Energy cannot be destroyed. There must be some explanation." "What if it is not destroying matter?" asked Jae-won. "What if it is moving it somewhere else? Or changing it into something we cannot detect?" added Eun-ji. Yi Jun looked at the tactical display on his wall. It showed both Council space and Exile territory. The missing systems formed a rough line moving from the outer regions toward the galactic core. "It is following a pattern," he said, "moving from system to system in a specific direction." "But why?" Won-sik studied the display. "It might be looking for something or heading towards something." "The galactic core," said Nari, "where the oldest and most powerful civilizations live. If I wanted to destroy the galaxy, that is where I would go." The meeting continued for hours. They discussed options and possibilities. But without more information, they could only guess at what the silence really was or how to fight it. 3 days later, another message arrived. This one was from Counselor Zethrak of the Nethys. It was transmitted on diplomatic frequencies that had not been used since the exile began. "To the humans beyond the rim, the Galactic Council requires your assistance. We face a threat that endangers all life in the galaxy. Our differences must be set aside for the greater good." Yi Jun almost laughed. For 50 years, the Council had ignored human attempts at communication. They had refused to acknowledge that humans even existed. Now they wanted help, but the next part of the message was more serious. "We know you have built new technology during your exile. We know you have formed alliances with other exiled races. We need that technology and those allies. In return, we offer full restoration of your rights as galactic citizens." "They are desperate," said Won-sik. "Good," replied Yi Jun. "Desperate people make better deals." But Dr. Yoon-ji was worried about something else. "Admiral, I have been studying the data from our deep space sensors. I am detecting strange energy patterns near the edge of our territory." She showed them her readings. The displays showed waves of force moving through space. The patterns were unlike anything they had seen before. "What does this mean?" asked Yi-jun. "I think the silence is spreading. It started in council space, but it is moving outward. Eventually it will reach us too." The room became quiet. They had hoped that their exile might protect them from whatever was destroying council space, but if Yoonji was right, nowhere would be safe. "How long do we have?" asked Jaewon. "Based on the current rate of expansion, perhaps 6 months before it reaches our outer colonies. Maybe less." Yi-jun made his decision. "Send a message to Councillor Zetharak. Tell him we will meet with council representatives, but not in council space. Here, on New Terra Prime. If they want our help, they come to us." "Are we really going to help them?" asked Wansik. "After what they did to us?" "We are going to help the galaxy," Yi-jun replied. "The council may have been our enemy, but this silence is everyone's enemy. If we do not work together, we will all die separately." 2 weeks later, a council delegation arrived at New Terra Prime. Councillor Zethrak led the group. He was a Nethys, which meant he looked like a cloud of glowing gas held in the shape of a person. With him were representatives from the Veltar and 3 other council races. The meeting was held in the same room where Yi-jun had met with the exile races months before. But this time, the atmosphere was very different. The council members looked afraid. Zethrak spoke first. "We thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We know our past relationship has been difficult. You exiled us and threatened to destroy us," said Yi-jun. "I would call that more than difficult. We believed we were protecting the galaxy. We see now that we were wrong. We need your help." Yi-jun gestured to Dr. Yoonji. She activated a holographic display that showed the latest intelligence reports. 15 systems have been lost, she said. "The rate of destruction is increasing. At current speeds, the silence will reach the galactic core in less than a year." The council members looked at the display with horror. One of the Veltar made a sound like breaking glass. "What is your analysis of this enemy?" asked Zethrak. "We believe it exists partially outside normal space-time," said Yoonji. "That is why your conventional weapons cannot affect it. It operates in dimensions that your technology cannot reach. But yours can? We have been experimenting with multi-dimensional technologies for decades. When you exiled us, we had to find new ways to survive. Some of those ways involved exploring spaces that others avoid." Another council member, a creature that looked like a living tree, spoke up. "What do you need from us?" Yi-jun smiled. "Full cooperation, complete sharing of information, and recognition that the exile races are equal partners in this alliance, not servants or subordinates." "Impossible," said the tree creature. "The council has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We cannot simply abandon our authority." "Then you can face the silence alone," said Yi-jun. He stood up as if to leave. "Wait," said Zethrak. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A new kind of alliance, not based on who is older or who was here first. Based on who can contribute to the solution. The exile races have technology you need. You have resources and information we need. We work together as equals, or we do not work together at all." The council members talked among themselves, in their various languages. Yi-jun waited patiently. He knew they had no choice. Finally, Zethrak spoke again. "We agree to equal partnership. But how do we know your technology can actually affect this enemy?" Dr. Yoonji smiled. "Because we have already tested it. 3 days ago, we detected a small manifestation of the silence at the edge of our territory. A probe sent to investigate one of our outer colonies. We destroyed it." The council members stared at her in amazement. "How?" asked the Veltar. "Quantum resonance weapons. They can affect matter that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It took us years to develop them, but they work." "Why did you not tell us this immediately?" demanded the tree creature. "Because we wanted to see if you would treat us as equals or as tools to be used," said Yi-jun. "Now we know." The negotiations continued for 3 more days. In the end, they reached an agreement. The Council would provide full access to their intelligence networks and resource bases. The exile races would share their advanced technology and multi-dimensional weapons. All major decisions would be made by consensus, not by Council decree. As the Council delegation prepared to leave, Zethrak approached Yi-Jun privately. "I must ask you something," he said. "Why are you helping us? We treated your people terribly. We tried to destroy you. Why not let the silence consume us and then deal with it yourselves?" Yi-Jun looked out at the stars. "Because that is not who we are. You exiled us for being different. But our difference is not that we are more violent or more dangerous. Our difference is that we do not abandon our responsibilities, even to those who have hurt us." He turned to face the Nethys counselor. "Besides, this enemy is too big for any one group to handle alone." The first battle against the Silence happened at the Kepler Nexus, where 3 important trade routes met. Admiral Yi-Jun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the New Soul, watching as his fleet moved into position. These were not the same desperate refugees who had fled Council space 50 years ago. These were warships designed and built in the darkness beyond the rim. The human ships looked strange compared to Council vessels. They were sleek and dark, with curves that seemed to bend light around them. Their hulls were made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. Their engines used exotic matter that few species understood. "Fleet status report," Yi-Jun commanded. "All ships ready, sir," replied Captain Dae-hyun, his tactical officer. "Phase shift generators are online. Quantum resonance weapons are charged. Our Keth and Zephyr allies are in position." Through the view screen, Yi-Jun could see the Allied fleet. Keth warships looked like golden sculptures that could fly through space. Their weapons were works of art that could destroy planets. Zephyr vessels were small and fast, darting between larger ships like schools of fish. Titan ships were massive, built by creatures that thought as one mind. "Any sign of Council forces?" asked Yi-Jun. 3 sectors away and keeping their distance," said Commander Hana from the communication station. "High Counselor Vexthala is demanding to know why we have violated the exile order." Yi-Jun smiled grimly. "Tell her we came back because someone has to do the job right." The Kepler Nexus had been a beautiful place once. 3 star systems close together, connected by stable wormhole networks that made travel fast and easy. Millions of people had lived here. Great space stations had floated between the stars like jewels. Now there was only darkness, and in that darkness, something moved. "Contact," announced the sensor officer. "The Silence is here." On the main screen, reality seemed to twist and bend. Space itself looked wrong, as if someone had taken a painting and smeared it while it was still wet. Strange shapes moved in the distortion, but they hurt to look at directly. "All ships prepare for dimensional combat," Yi-Jun ordered. The human fleet began to change. The ships seemed to become less solid, their edges becoming fuzzy. This was the phase shift technology that Dr. Yoonji had developed. It allowed the ships to exist partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions. The Silence attacked without warning. Reality rippled around the human ships. Normal space-time tried to fold in on itself. Any regular ship would have been crushed instantly or simply ceased to exist. But the exile fleet was not regular. As the attack hit, the ships shifted through, dimensions like dancers moving to music only they could hear. They slipped between layers of reality, avoiding the worst of the assault. "Fire when ready," commanded Yi-Jun. The quantum resonance weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of shooting energy or matter, they fired pure mathematical concepts. They attacked the foundations of reality itself, finding the weak points where the Silence existed between dimensions. Golden beams of light shot out from the human ships. Where they struck the distortion, the wrongness began to fade. The twisted space started to return to normal. "We are hurting it," reported Dae-hyun with excitement. But the Silence was learning. The distortion changed shape, becoming harder to target. New attacks came from directions that should not have existed. One human ship was caught off guard and simply vanished, leaving no trace behind. Keth Squadron, Implement Pattern 7, ordered Yi Jun. The golden Keth ships moved in perfect formation. Their weapons sang as they fired, creating patterns of energy that looked like poetry written in light. The Keth had learned to fight in multiple dimensions during their long exile. Their attacks struck not just at the enemy, but at the concepts that allowed the enemy to exist. The Zephyr ships darted forward, their small size letting them get close to the silence. Their crews worked faster than human eyes could follow, setting up devices that created stable points in the twisted space. These anchor points gave the larger ships something solid to aim at. The battle lasted for 6 hours. It was like nothing anyone had ever experienced. Ships fought while existing in 7 dimensions at once. Weapons fired across gaps in reality that had no distance. Entire sections of space were rewritten by the conflict. Finally, the distortion began to shrink. The wrongness that was the silence pulled back, condensing into a smaller area. The quantum weapons had hurt it badly. "It is retreating," said Hana with amazement. But Yi Jun was not celebrating yet. "Where is it going?" Dr. Yunji answered from her science station. "Following the trade routes toward the galactic core, it is heading for the heart of Council territory." "Then, we follow it," Yi Jun decided. "All ships pursue but maintain distance. We heard it here, but we did not destroy it. Next time, it will be ready for our tactics." As the fleet moved deeper into Council space, they began to encounter the refugees. Millions of ships filled with terrified civilians, fleeing from the advancing silence. Council military vessels tried to maintain order, but they were overwhelmed. Yi Jun opened communications to the refugee fleet. "This is Admiral Yi Jun of the Terran Frontier Alliance. We are here to help." The response came quickly. "This is High Counselor Vexathala. You are in violation of your exile order. Leave immediately or face the consequences." "Look around you, Counselor," Yi Jun replied calmly. "Your worlds are being destroyed by something your weapons cannot touch. Your people are dying by the millions, and you are worried about 50-year-old politics?" There was silence on the communication channel. Then Vexathala spoke again, her voice much quieter. "What do you propose?" "Joint operations. Your ships provide cover for the civilians. Our ships fight the silence. We work together, or we all die, separately." It took 3 more battles before the Council forces truly understood what they were facing. At the Centauri Gate, an entire Council battle fleet tried to stop the silence using conventional tactics. They were erased from existence in less than an hour. At the Rigel crossing, Veltar crystal ships fired their most powerful weapons for 6 straight hours. The energy passed through the silence without having any effect at all. But when the exile fleet arrived, things changed. The human ships danced between dimensions while Keth poetry weapons sang through folded space. Zephyr engineers built impossible structures that gave reality something to hold on to. Titan hive minds coordinated attacks across multiple layers of existence. For the first time since the crisis began, the silence was stopped. Not destroyed, but stopped. The advance toward the galactic core slowed. After the battle at Rigel Crossing, High Counselor Vexthala requested a meeting. She came aboard the New Soul with a small delegation of council members. They looked very different from the proud rulers who had exiled humanity 50 years ago. They looked frightened and desperate. "We owe you an apology," Vexthala said to Yi Jun. "We were wrong about your people, wrong about the exile races, wrong about many things." Yi Jun nodded. "Apologies are nice, but what matters now is working together to save what is left." "What do you need from us?" asked a Veltar counselor. "Everything," replied Yi Jun. "Full access to your sensor network so we can track the enemy's movements. Your manufacturing facilities to build more quantum weapons. Your civilian ships to evacuate populations from threatened worlds. Complete cooperation. And in return, we save your civilization, possibly the entire galaxy." The negotiations were quick. There was no time for the usual diplomatic games. The silence was adapting to their tactics. Each battle was harder than the last. Soon their current weapons might not be effective at all. Dr. Yunji worked with council scientists to understand the enemy better. What they discovered was terrifying. The silence was not just one creature. It was part of something much larger, a scout force for an invasion that came from the empty space between galaxies. "How many are there?" asked Yi-jun during a strategy meeting. "We cannot be sure," said Yunji, "but based on the energy readings, the main force could be thousands of times larger than what we have fought so far." The room fell silent. Even their combined fleets would not be enough against an enemy that size. "How long before the main force arrives?" asked Vexithala. 6 months, maybe less." General Won-sik, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke. "Then we need to change our strategy. We cannot fight them ship to ship. We need something bigger." "What do you suggest?" asked Yi-jun. "We make the galaxy itself into a weapon." Won-sik activated a holographic display that showed the spiral arms of the galaxy. The silence uses the structure of spacetime to move and attack. What if we change that structure? Made it work against them instead of for them? Dr. Yunji stared at the display. "You are talking about reshaping reality across an entire galaxy. The energy requirements would be enormous. The risks of not trying are worse," said Won-sik. A Keth representative spoke up. "Our ancient stories tell of such things, reality weapons that could change the nature of existence itself, but they required cooperation on a scale never seen before." "How much cooperation?" asked Yi-jun. "Every race, every world, every ship and station and colony, all working together as parts of a single machine, all thinking as one mind for one purpose." Vexthala looked skeptical. "Impossible. The final battle began not in any single place but everywhere at once. Across 7 spiral arms of the galaxy, millions of ships and billions of people worked together as one massive weapon. Admiral Yi-jun stood at the center of it all, coordinating the greatest military operation in galactic history. The main display showed the entire galaxy. Every star system was connected by lines of light that represented communication networks. Every world glowed with the energy of the reality-shaping machines that Dr. Yunji and her team had built. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Status report," Yi-jun commanded. "All sectors reporting ready," said Commander Hana. "The quantum fold network is stable. Reality anchors are in position. The consciousness bridge is online." The consciousness bridge was the most amazing part of the plan. Using Titan hive mind technology combined with Keth poetry networks and human quantum communications, they had created a system that let every person in the galaxy think as part of a single mind, not losing their individuality, but sharing their thoughts and feelings with everyone else. For the first time in galactic history, a human could feel what it was like to be a crystalline Veltar. A Nethys could experience the solid certainty of living in a physical body. A Keth could share their poetry thoughts with millions of beings who had never understood art as a weapon. "The enemy fleet has been detected," announced Captain Dae-hyun. "They are coming through the void between galaxies." Sighs. "Oh no." Yi-jun looked at the sensor readings and felt his heart sink. The main force of the silence was vast beyond imagination. Thousands of the creatures they had fought before, all working together. Behind them came something even worse, a darkness so complete that it seemed to eat light itself. "That is their leader," said Dr. Yunji from her science station. "The core consciousness that controls all the others. If we can destroy that, the rest will lose coordination." "How do we fight something that size?" asked General Won-sik. "We do not fight it," Yi-jun replied. "We transform it. The galaxy weapon is not designed to destroy the enemy. It is designed to change the nature of reality around the enemy, make it impossible for them to exist here." The first phase of the battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the Silence Fleet approached, reality itself began to change. The quantum fold network activated, creating impossible geometries in space. Straight lines became circles. Time moved sideways. The normal laws of physics stopped working in some areas and became stronger in others. The silence creatures tried to adapt, but they could not. They were designed to exist in the gaps between dimensions. But now there were no gaps. The exile races had learned to live in impossible places, and they had made the entire galaxy impossible. First wave is confused, reported Daehyun. They are trying to retreat back to normal space-time, but the reality anchors are preventing it. Begin Phase 2, ordered Yijun. Across the galaxy, the Keth began to sing, not with their voices, but with their ships, their weapons, their very existence. The song was a poem written in mathematics and energy. It told the story of life struggling against entropy, of hope fighting against despair, of many different peoples choosing to work together instead of fighting each other. The song spread through the quantum network, carried by human ships and amplified by Zephyr engineering. Titan hive minds added their voices, creating harmonies that existed in dimensions that had no names. Even the council races joined in, their ancient technologies adding power to the growing symphony. The effect on the silence was immediate. The creatures began to change. Their forms became less solid, less certain. They were beings of pure negation, existing only to consume and destroy. But the song was pure creation, pure affirmation of life and growth and possibility. "It is working," said Yunji with excitement. "The enemy's cohesion is breaking down, but the core consciousness is fighting back." The darkness behind the Silence Fleet began to move forward. As it approached, the reality weapon effects started to weaken. This creature was older and more powerful than the others. It had consumed entire galaxies before. It would not be defeated easily. "All ships, combat formation," ordered Yijun. "This is where we make our stand." The combined fleet moved to intercept the core consciousness. Human ships phased through dimensions while Keth vessels sang their war poems. Zephyr craft built impossible structures in the path of the enemy, creating obstacles that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Titan ships coordinated everything with their shared mind, but the core consciousness was too powerful. Ships that touched its darkness simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, they just stopped being real. Entire squadrons vanished, as if they had never existed at all. "We are losing too many ships," reported Wonsik. "At this rate, we will not have enough forces left to maintain the reality weapon." Yijun studied the tactical display. The mathematics were clear. They could hurt the enemy but not destroy it. Not without a sacrifice that would cost them everything they were trying to save. "There is another way," said Dr. Yunji quietly. "The quantum fold generators can be overloaded. If we focus all the galaxy's energy through a single point, we can create a reality storm powerful enough to banish the core consciousness back to the void." "What would that require?" asked Yijun, though he already knew the answer. "Someone has to carry the focusing device into the heart of the enemy. Someone has to activate it manually from inside the creature's own consciousness." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. Whoever carried the device would not come back. "I will do it," said Yijun. "No," said Wonsik, immediately. "You are needed to coordinate the fleet. I will go." "The device requires a scientist to operate," said Yunji. "It has to be me." Before anyone could argue, Captain Nari's voice came through the communication system. "I am already closest to the target. My ship has the best chance of penetrating the enemy's defenses. I will carry the device." Yijun closed his eyes. Nari had been exploring dangerous places for 50 years. She had found the exile races and brought them together. She had mapped the routes that let the human fleet return to Council space. She had always been the one to go where others could not. "Nari, you do not have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do," she replied. "This is what I was born for. To go to the places no one else can go. To bring back what is needed for everyone else to survive." Before Yijun could object, something unexpected happened. High Counselor Vexthala's voice came through the communication network. "Captain Nari, this is High Counselor Vexthala. You will not go alone. I am coming with you." "Counselor, that is not necessary," said Nari. "Yes, it is. 50 years ago, the Council made a terrible mistake. We exiled the best people in the galaxy because we were afraid of change. We were afraid of growth. We were afraid of being proven wrong. Today I have a chance to make up for that mistake." Other voices joined the communication. A Veltar crystal singer, a Nethys cloud dancer, representatives from every race in the galaxy. "If we are going to save the galaxy," said the Veltar, "then we go together, as equals, as partners, as friends." Yijun felt tears in his eyes. This was not how he had planned the battle. But sometimes the most important moments were the ones that could not be planned. "All volunteers, form up on Captain Nari's ship," he ordered. "Everyone else, prepare for final phase implementation." The volunteer fleet was small but determined. Nari's exploration ship led the way, followed by vessels from every race in the galaxy. They moved through the chaos of battle like a spear, aimed at the heart of darkness. The core consciousness tried to stop them. Reality twisted and bent around the volunteer ships. Several vessels were lost, their crews dying to protect the others. But the survivors kept moving forward. Finally, Nari's ship reached the center of the enemy. The darkness was so complete that the ship's lights could not penetrate it. But the quantum fold device was working, drawing energy from across the galaxy. "Device is ready," Nari reported, initiating final sequence. Across the galaxy, billions of people felt the moment through the consciousness bridge. They felt Nari's determination, Vexthala's regret, the crystal singer's beautiful sadness, the cloud dancer's fierce joy. They felt the moment when all their different thoughts and feelings became one single purpose. The device activated. Reality exploded outward from the point where Nari's ship had been. The explosion was not made of matter or energy, but of pure possibility. It rewrote the fundamental laws that governed the space around the core consciousness, making it impossible for creatures of negation to exist there. The darkness screamed. It was a sound that existed in dimensions that had no names, but every person in the galaxy felt it through the consciousness bridge. The sound of ultimate emptiness being forced to confront the reality of life and growth and hope. Then the darkness was gone, banished back to the void between galaxies where it belonged. The silence creatures that remained lost their coordination and began to dissolve, returning to whatever strange place they had come from. The battle was over. The galaxy was saved. But the cost had been terrible. Nari and her volunteers were gone, along with thousands of other ships and millions of brave people who had fought to the end.